How long would it take us to go to Jupiter? Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and no one seems to be talking much about the gas giant. So we thought to take matters into our own hands and talk about how long it would take for us to go to Jupiter. Well, the answer to that question depends upon a number of factors like distance, path, speed, and who's going to go to Jupiter. So let's discuss these in great detail one by one in this video and understand how long it will take to reach the biggest planet in our solar system. Jupiter is one of the most important planets in our solar system, with giant anti-cyclonic storms and a magnetosphere so powerful that it defies comprehension. Jupiter is an intriguing planet. Many people would prefer to go to Saturn, obviously, because of its beautiful rings. But Jupiter, too, won't disappoint you. There are many reasons to go to Jupiter, like its icy moons, which we will discuss later on in the video. But if you were to escape Earth for some reason, a cost-benefit observation would show that Jupiter is a more viable option. So why would we want to travel to Jupiter? One of the most compelling reasons to visit Jupiter would be its moons. Even though Jupiter is a gas giant, it has 80 rocky moons. It's almost like a mini solar system of its own. Jupiter's moons like Europa, Ganymede, Callisto might contain vast reserves of liquid water underneath their icy shells and can be the best place to look for life in our solar system. So if we decide to go to Jupiter, how much distance would we need to cover? The journey to Jupiter is going to be a long one. Earth and Jupiter are like sprinters sprinting on a clay track under the scorching sun. Because they circle around the sun at different speeds, the distance between them varies all the time. The distance between them is approximately 365 million miles at their closest point, and 600 million miles at their furthest point. Just to give you an idea, 600 million miles is more than 24,000 times the circumference of the Earth. And to get a better idea of how far Jupiter is, it would take us approximately 800 years if we tried to travel to Jupiter at 70 miles per hour, which is the normal speed for our cars. The two celestial bodies are approximately 483 million miles apart on average. Keeping these things in mind, scientists must weigh the benefits of burning more fuel versus the significant cost outlay and time required to reach the goal. The time it takes to travel to a distant planet is determined not only by technical advances in propulsion technologies, but also by how all of the planets are aligned. Since we are talking about going to Jupiter, what about spacecrafts that have already been to Jupiter? There have been spacecraft in the past that have actually been to Jupiter. In the 1970s, 4 NASA spacecrafts, Pioneer 10 and 11 and Voyager 1 and 2, were launched. All 4 of them took a direct route to the gas giant. Even though all of these traveled to Jupiter, none of them stayed around. They used Jupiter's gravity assist, which flung them out towards the outer solar system. But in the past, there have been only 2 spacecraft which actually stuck around, Galileo and Juno. Both missions followed a more indirect route to Jupiter, relying on the gravitational pull of the inner planets to accelerate through the asteroid belt and into Jupiter's orbit. Taking the long route required less fuel, which is required to slow down sufficiently to establish a stable orbit. So how long did these trips take? NASA's Pioneer 10 was the first spacecraft to reach Jupiter. It traveled the shortest route possible, taking only 640 days, just under 2 years. Despite this, it barely arrived within 130,000 kilometers of Jupiter. When a spacecraft just intends to observe the planet superficially, it takes faster paths. Pioneer 10 probe took a few photographs of Jupiter before continuing its journey towards the outer solar system. In a similar fashion, Pioneer 11 and Voyagers 1 and 2 took roughly around 600 days, but were able to reach much closer to Jupiter than Pioneer 10, getting within 22,000 kilometers of the gas giant. The Galileo mission, which was launched by NASA with the specific goal of researching Jupiter and its moons, was the first space mission to spend several years orbiting the planet. To stay close to the planet, a spacecraft must travel slowly and follow a more roundabout route in order to enter Jupiter's orbit and conduct its inquiry. A too fast spaceship would simply fly past the planet without entering its orbit. The Galileo mission took 2,242 days, nearly 6 years, to reach Jupiter, but it did it at precisely the appropriate velocity. Galileo, the first spacecraft to spend several years in Jupiter's orbit, used a Vega, Venus-Earth Gravity Assist course. The spaceship had one near contact with Venus, then 2 rounds about Earth before being hurled off like a disk towards our solar system's main planet. The fastest any spacecraft traveled to Jupiter was the New Horizons probe, which traveled around 45,000 miles per hour, reaching the giant planet in only about 405 days. On its approach to Pluto and other minor planets, this space probe had an unusual flyby. It took advantage of Jupiter's tremendous gravity to increase its speed and optimize its path towards the dwarf planet Pluto. The gravity assist from Jupiter helped New Horizons increase the probe's velocity by approximately 8,700 miles per hour. This helped in truncating its trip to our solar system's beloved dwarf planet by 3 years. If we talk about sending humans to Jupiter, there might be quite a few other things to keep in mind, and the missions would also take a bit longer than the spacecraft. The farthest humans have been in outer space is the Moon. We haven't been back to the Moon also for the last 50 years, and are finally returning now thanks to the Artemis missions. According to NASA, the shortest, most fuel-efficient path to Mars would take 9 months one way and 21 months round trip. If we generalize the methods used to compute this path, a similar one-way trip to Jupiter would take almost 6 years. NASA also predicts that a 4-person crew would require 8,000 pounds of food every year, implying that a 4-person mission to Jupiter would require 48,000 pounds of food simply to get there, and significantly more to return. In addition, all of the life support and research equipment would have to be sent into orbit from Earth. On top of this, we would also need to reach Jupiter safely. Astronauts would face a lot of challenges. One of the biggest one being radiation. Aside from the continual bombardment of radiation from the Sun, which is unprotected by our magnetosphere, space travelers will have to shield themselves against galactic cosmic rays, which can cause genetic damage and cancer. Astronauts will also face various psychological issues while spending lots of time in space. Long-term space flight can cause anxiety, which might exacerbate interactions with other crew members. Isolation from family and friends, along with a routine work schedule, exacerbates these symptoms. Even though astronauts are trained for this, they are trained on Earth. Once you go outside of our home planet and see the blue marble floating in space, it changes your perspective. Thanks to NASA's new generation suits and the upcoming Artemis missions, these challenges will be perfected and improved upon in the coming years. While traveling to Jupiter, there is also the route which scientists have to keep in mind. A spacecraft can travel a straight path, like the Pioneers and Voyagers did, or a longer, more roundabout path, like Galileo or Juno. A lengthier trip would need them passing close to a planet's orbit. This is why their alignment with respect to each other is of critical importance. The planet's gravitational pull lures a spacecraft inside when traveling towards it, and then slingshots it on its way around and back out. The spacecraft has to rely on the planet's orbital energy to achieve this. The loss of energy is so tiny that even though the planet loses some amount of its energy, the retardation in motion is negligible. At last, there is the question of which is a more efficient method to reach Jupiter. While you may get to Jupiter faster and in less time by burning more fuel, there is a more fuel-efficient method that will save you a lot of money and other valuable resources. Furthermore, money isn't the only barrier in this situation. Satellites moving at high speeds also struggle to slow down to the proper velocity and settle into a celestial body's orbit. However, spacecraft, like any typical trip through a low-lit planetarium giving you a tour of the solar system, are built to speed by planets with the goal of only glancing at the planet and taking a few shots before flying off to explore the unknown ahead. This is known as a flyby. Jupiter is one of the most active and interesting planets in our solar system. Jupiter's moons, which have enormous seas behind thick ice shells, may just provide the right environment for life to develop and are among the top contenders for life outside of Earth in our solar system. Fortunately, we have two major space missions planned to visit Jupiter's moons. The first is NASA's Europa Clipper, which was created expressly to examine Europa, one of Jupiter's 80 moons. It's scheduled to launch in 2024 and is expected to reach Jupiter's orbit by 2031. As previously explained, in order to remain in Jupiter's orbit, the spaceship must follow a long meandering course with reduced velocity, rather than just whizzing past it. Another project, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer mission, is planned by the European Space Agency to launch in 2022 and reach Jupiter's orbit by 2029. In brief, an extremely fast spaceship like New Horizons can reach Jupiter in a little over a year. But if the goal of the space mission is to only fly past Jupiter, it would take roughly 550 to 650 days on average. To examine the planet and its moons by entering Jupiter's orbit, a spacecraft must be slow enough to reach Jupiter's orbit at precisely the appropriate speed, allowing it to be caught by the gas giant. The gas giant has many things to offer us and will be a valuable resource to understand about our solar system. So, will we be able to reduce the time taken to reach Jupiter? When will humans even try such a mission? Let us know what you think in the comment section below and share the video with your friends.